and today I prepared a small lightning talk about using webp. Actually the title was quite large, but like 5 minutes before the talk we shortened it up because that's actually what this will be about, use webp. But first we're going to take a step back. So what's also important besides the image format is also that you need to use the correct size that your image will be rendered at. Because if you decode your image to a size that's like 3 times as much as necessary, it's going to negatively reflect your app performance. So that's why you can use the cache width or the cache height property. It's available on the image class, or example, image.asset and image.network. Also make sure that you watch your device pixel ratio, because sometimes, for instance, your iPhone mostly nowadays has a pixel ratio of 3. Some other devices have a pixel ratio of 2. You need to take that into account to calculate the correct cache width and cache height parameters. You can also do it in a different way. You also have the resize image, which instead of a cache width and a cache height parameter has a width and a height parameter, but it basically does the same thing. Now, what is actually hard about that is how are you going to identify this? Fortunately, there is a property available. You can just enable it, for instance, in your main class. I mostly wrap it in a kdebug just to be sure. And it's debug invert oversized images. And what this will actually do is the following. So on the left side, you see a small colibri. It's a reference to Dash as well. I saw it myself in Costa Rica, by the way. But what it will basically do is just invert it both in colors and upside down to make it visible to you that that image is being rendered at an incorrect size. As well, in your logging, you will see how much data actually it requires more than when you would have it in the good way. On the right side, I have fixed that using the cache width parameters and the cache height parameter. And as you can see now, my colibri is right again. And now we're going to the main topic actually, and that's using the right image format. I think everybody knows that there are different image formats. Mostly known are JPEG and PNG. Those are the first two here. PNG, this is actually the best one for images requiring lossless compression and transparency. It provides actually faster rendering than JPEG, I will explain later, but it's basically because it has lossless compression. It has a larger file size overall than JPEG when you have a normal image. What it is also good for is for logos, because when you have a PNG image where most of the image is the same color or transparent, it actually is more, less file size than the JPEG file. JPEG is actually best used for photographs and detailed images, but it has lossy compression. So it's less detailed, but it's often better to use because PNGs, they grow to an enormous file size. I will show it to you later where I have the same image in the 3 different file formats to show you how much the difference actually is. But the downside to JPEG is that it's also slower to render. Not because it's smaller, it should be faster, but that's not the case. But because it needs to be decompressed and that whole process needs to happen on your phone, it actually becomes slower. It also doesn't have any transparency, so losing that part as well. And then last, we have webp. That's actually the best way to go forward. It's a modern format that supports both lossy and lossless compression with transparency. It actually combines the two, and it results in a smaller file size that also renders faster. I didn't go in too deep because I'm not any scientist. I do not know at all what down at the bottom the difference is or how it gets calculated, but it is the best one to use for all your web and mobile applications. The only downside that is present is that it has limited support. Most common day browsers support it in both Android and iOS. iOS a while back didn't support it, but right now it's totally fine to use it. So this is the impact of the download size. On the top you see a placeholder that just has 2000x 1500 in there, but most of the pixels are just gray. There you can see what I meant earlier. You have a JPEG with 49 kilobytes, a PNG which is actually smaller of 16 kilobytes, and a WebP image of 6 kilobytes. The image below is the one that you saw earlier as well. It has 1.3 megabytes for the JPEG image and 12.6 for the PNG. So that's what I meant with it can increase enormously. And then lastly you have the WebP file format, which is actually the smallest download size with 330 kilobytes. So why is this important? It's mostly important for your network images, also the ones you ship with your app, because you want to decrease the download size, but especially for the images that you download from your API. If you have an image heavy application, for instance we have an IMO application where you download a lot of images, it can have a difference on the performance, also on the network performance when the Wi-Fi is bad or there's only like a 3G connection. This is also related to the performance. I wanted to do a demo, but it actually failed for some reason. What actually failed was that I cannot always reproduce this same difference between the three file formats. A lot of times it actually is closer. You can still see slightly that there is a difference in WebP. You can actually feel it a bit, but the difference is not always this much. But this was done in a test application where there was also a platform view, a map running in the background, which can of course explain a bit the difference. But here you see the results that I had when testing it, and you can clearly see that WebP was like a big win for our performance. So that was actually my talk. So if you have any questions or want to talk about it later, please go ahead.